Okay, all right. Hello, everyone. I'm here with PharaohHazard, aka Lily, and we're here to sort of start a movie film review related podcast about whatever film we feel like talking about. So today we're going to talk about the 1980s sci-fi horror film Videodrome. So this film was written and directed by David Cronenberg. And it was actually like one of his first like big kind of Hollywood films. And it's about this guy, Max Renn, who's played by James Woods, who he's like the president of this this television company. It's Civic TV, which I guess broadcasts out of Toronto. And they specialize in a certain kind of programming that's, a bit sadistic, if you will. And so then one of the guys that works for him, Harlan, who's this sort of, he specializes in piracy. And so he pirated this signal from this place. He's not really even sure at first where it's from. And it's this show called Videodrome. And so Lily, like, what exactly is Videodrome?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things it could be. Like, you have the sleazy corporate side of running it, but then it's also its own entity as well. And you never really get an answer of like what, because it moves, like it's kind of alive. You can defeat it. You can be taken in by it. So I don't really know what Videodrome really is, except that, like I said before, it's incredibly ahead of its time and really gross. Like whatever Videodrome is, it's very gross.
It's got some strong body horror elements to it.
Yes, it does.
Something that really marks David Cronenberg's career.
And that's something that I've also noticed about him, especially, is like showing the really gross signs, kind of like those, like the Mad Magazine exaggerated gross features of like people, like, I don't want to say average people because I don't want to be hurtful to anyone, but like, it's very much exaggerated Mad Magazine-esque like features and appearances, habits even. But it's, and not even just like gross by like the body horror, but just what Videodrome is. It definitely makes me uncomfortable, and I don't want to watch it if it was real.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So basically he kind of becomes obsessed with it, right? Yeah. Like he seems like his character really seems like a guy who's like constantly chasing the next
thrill.
Yeah, exactly. He's a real thrill chaser, and he's like probably has a lot to do with like why he does the job he does. I mean, he comes off to me as like a really kind of shady guy at first. Like one of the first things we see is he goes to that meeting with the Japanese guys, and then he just like randomly steals some food off of one of those like carts that the people who like clean the rooms in hotels.
Yeah, it's kind, and you don't really like, why does he have to do that? It's just second nature. Was he at the bottom for a while, and these are just habits and traits that he's picked up? Because we really, besides what we already know about him, we don't really know about what he was doing before this all was going down, except trying to legitimize himself in some way. His motivations are very strange. And
they're very strange.
Yeah, and that he does want to, like I said, bring that legitimacy to himself, but it's just, I don't know why.
Yeah, it really feels like they want us to feel like he's a really scummy, weird kind of guy.
Yeah, and he is, but I also feel like he's not without his, because there's that scene when Nicki is showing him she's going to burn herself with a cigarette, for example. He wants to indulge her, but only to a certain point, because he's freaked out by it, clearly. So even he has his limitations to what freakiness is going to be involved or whatever, even though she's totally cool with it.
Yeah, exactly. He has, like, I feel like his best quality is that he seems like if he wants something, he pursues it really strongly.
Yes.
And so he's like our avenue toward, because we want the same answers that he does.
Exactly.
So we're kind of like, okay, I'm intrigued too. I want to know what more about this weird thing, Videodrome, whatever it actually is. And yeah, like you said, he does have limits. He definitely has a more moral hierarchy where it's like,
it's very small though.
Yeah, it's very, and it kind of dissipates throughout the film.
Yeah.
So then like later on in the plot, so he goes on this Regina King show,
Yeah.
right? And that's where he meets Nicki Brand, who's like this, I guess you could say a sadomasochistic talk show host.
Yeah.
And so yeah, later on we see she has a show like. Do you remember what it was? She was like trying to stop people from like harming themselves or something like that.
Because at the height of like, just like the 80s, I also think we need to look at like when it was made too, what was going on then. At the height of like, I think the 80s and 90s, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, there was a boom in radio psychiatry, which is what the show Frasier's all about, basically. And whether or not it's healthy, productive, if you can really diagnose someone within a 1-minute phone call. And that's kind of the impression I was getting with her, is that she's some kind of pseudo radio psychologist in some way. Because she sounds like she's talking whoever's calling her on her show off a ledge of some kind.
Yeah.
So it's, but people like that tend to have a dark side of some kind. So.
Yes. Yeah. And her dark side is that she's a sadomasochist and likes to be, tortured and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another part of that show was this guy Brian Oblivion, who's very, very interesting character.
Yes.
So Brian Oblivion is a guy who he's like a professor or something, and he never appears in person. He only appears like through a television.
Yeah, which is what we're all doing now, basically.
Yeah.
Which again is very ahead of its time.
Yeah. And so he just kind of goes on this rant while Max is trying to ask Nicki out, which is really
feeds into his like seedy, sleazy personality.
Yeah.
He's clearly verbally degrading him, and he's like, "Well, I kind of like that."
Yeah. Yeah, which is it's like a great scene. What I really found interesting, so this guy Brian Oblivion, he kind of reminded me like some of the things he was saying. There's this guy who's like a media, like a professor of like media criticism. His name was Marshall Mcluhan. He was a Canadian like media critic, and he became very prominent in the 60s. He wrote this book, I think it was called like Media Criticism or something like that. And what he was known for was he talked about how the medium is the message. That was like a big quote of his from his book. And he actually talked a lot about like television piracy and like different ways of like viewing media that sort of have an innate material sense to them. So like if you watch like a pirated television show and like, seeing that static, like that has that creates in and of itself a different feeling of that media object than like seeing, HBO would be. And what Brian Oblivion was saying kind of reminded me a lot of that, because he also talked about how media was an extension of ourselves. Like he had this quote. It was like, it's like the cameras are the retina of the mind's eye, something like that. And yeah, the Brian Oblivion character kind of felt really on point for what Mcluhan was saying, and so I felt like that was like a way for Croninberg to kind of bring in that type of theme into the film. Like thematically, like that's what he's trying to talk about, is like how media and how these ways of viewing ourselves actually have an impact on us and how they really inform who we are. So yeah, I thought that was his character was really interesting. Go ahead. Yeah. So then like Oblivion, he says like, he makes this really interesting comment, like soon we'll all have special names designed to make the cathode ray tubes resonate. I thought
that's like our usernames, dude.
Yeah. I was like dude, this is like totally right on social media.
It really is. And it's also, I don't know, maybe it kind of reminds me of like these stands or these fans. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a stan of a few different people too. But like, it's almost like human beings love making clans within clans within clans. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, And usernames are an extension of that sometimes as well. Like, you know, I read somewhere that like your name kind of can help shape the rest of your life by what people call you, the nicknames by that extension. But no, like I loved that part of it. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, even like that, there's like people create parasocial relationships with entities that are like not even, they never even know, right?
Yeah. It's kind of one of those drawbacks of like when you watch a famous influencer for so long, you feel like you're part of it, but you're not, and that's where that line gets really gray.
Totally. So yeah, I feel like this film was like very prescient in the way that it understood media, and it's very relevant to our like social media age. So then after that, the TV show, Max, like, they go on a date. He goes on a date with Nicki, and then he shows her Videodrome, and then they have this.
That was awkward sex scene. I was like, this is like my top 5 grossest sex scenes. Like the noise alone, like the audio edit. Like I'm kind of a stickler for like sound mixing and stuff like that. Like, and I was just like, this is too much. Yeah. Like they recorded the gross noises after the filming of it. I don't know, but yeah. And she's into pain. The first thing she wants to do is watch porn, and she picks the raunchiest, nastiest one. And even he again is kind of like, oh, we don't have to watch that. Like we don't have to do that. We can just like stay in or whatever. And she's like, nah, dude, let's do this. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing too, because like the film kind of presents this idea about like, is Max, because he becomes a conduit of the Videodrome, right? And the question is like, is he, was he chosen to do it, or did he choose to do it? It's almost like he doesn't really actually want to become the conduit of this thing.
Yeah, I think because we never want to become the worst parts of humanity. You know what I mean? Like we don't ever want to. We see Karens at a restaurant behaving awful and stuff like that, and then we're like, that'll never be me. But then your package from Amazon doesn't arrive late, so you contact customer service and you're on hold for 15 minutes, and before you know it, you're the Karen. And yeah, I think it's this fight to, again, he already knows, I think, to an extent, he's a sleazy person, but it's taking that final leap into the cesspool of grossness that I even think he doesn't think he can do or doesn't want to do. And again, I feel like this movie is just kind of like a mirror, of like, humanity's pretty gross sometimes and awful. And
yeah, totally. Yeah. And a lot of it comes through the media, like the media that we consume. It's kind of, it's sort of like shades of what we are as people. Like, and that was one of the things too that they talked about in that talk show, was he was like, the host asked him, like, do you think this has a negative impact on people? And he's like, no, I think it's just people like letting out their deepest desires by watching our programming.
Yeah.
And that's like an internal debate of, media criticism. Like, does consuming violence make people violent?
Exactly. It's the whole like video game, like violent video game argument. It's like I've watched Game of Thrones. I don't want to go out and grab a broadsword and go cut off people's heads saying I'm the mother of dragons or something. Yeah. But it's
an escape.
Exactly. But then I watch something like Daredevil, and I'm like, yeah, I would totally love to get jacked and go beat up some criminals. But again, I am weak and can't. So, but that's why we watch these.
You just need to learn how to use like a crossbow. That tends to be like the next step.
Crossbow, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so then I think the next plot point was like Max meets with Masha, who is this like older woman who she like produces softcore porn, and he's like
some Russian, like I'm assuming she's Eastern European or something like that.
Yeah, she's like also, Eastern or Ukrainian or something.
I don't mean to interrupt. I don't want to sidetrack you or anything, but all of the main characters, most of the main characters he encounters are all women, which I noticed, which I thought was kind of, I don't know if that was important or if it was an accident or if it meant something. But
yeah. I mean, there's this really, so like, if you think about it, what was the opening image? It was his, what was it? She was like his
Girl Friday, his secretary.
Yeah, that's literally what. Yeah, she says like, "Hey, it's your Girl Friday."
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's the secretary like telling him, "Hey, you need to wake up and meet with these Japanese guys for this," which is interesting because, again, he's getting all these things through. Like, she could call him on the phone, right?
But it comes through the TV.
It comes through the TV. Like, that's how he lives. He lives through this device.
Yep.
And that's how he understands the world. It's like, oh, the television told me I need to go to work.
I will get up and go to work.
I go to work. Yeah, exactly.
Well, now we have well, I'm not going to say its name because it will activate ALEXA right next to me.
Yeah.
Like, turn on the TV or the air conditioner or the lights.
Yeah. It's like plugged into your whole life.
Literally,
through this device. Yeah.
Oh
man, if only they knew like what the smartphone would do to humanity.
Dude,
it's like
we willingly take it.
Yeah,
take it, and I mean,
it's
I can tell my words and friends. So.
Imagine the television that has access to all the information in the world within a couple seconds. That you can also broadcast yourself in Skynet.
Just Skynet. No.
Yeah.
See that? I totally sidetracked you. I'm sorry, but that is
it's fine. It's
horror show. Like, if the world ends, it will be because of an AI. I'm convinced of it. Yeah,
I mean, I feel like, to be honest, I feel like, I think if there's like AI, I think, and there's like I forget what they call a singularity.
Yes.
I don't think they would care at all about us, to be honest.
We've been asking them the dumbest questions for the last 5 years. Yeah. Why would they care? They know what we're all about.
Because it's like, do we care about ants or colonies of, we might accidentally harm them because they either interact with us in a way we don't like, or, we're like building something on what was their territory and we're so much more advanced that they can't even beg to like not be, obliterated. But like, yeah, I just, to me, like I have this theory that in the long future, like AI will see us the way we see like dogs. Like they're little pets. And yeah, there are some people who like do horrible things to dogs or cats or other animals. But the majority of people treat dogs well because they see them as like
helpful or kind or comforting,
cute, or they give them some level of pleasure beyond whatever. And there's also, we have this symbiotic relationship with dogs where we've evolved with them over long amount of time.
I think it's probably millions of years at this point, probably, unless I sound like it's real dope. But
it's actually interesting. Like they can't even trace like where the first basically dog is, and
they're literally all over the world.
Yeah,
all over the world.
Yeah, well, because like genetically, the dog is like separate from the other like wolves. Like they're genetically distinct. But it happened at some point, and they can't really trace when. They can actually trace it to two separate places. The first dog, basically. There's like one in Africa, and there was like one in Asia. So like, cool. The dog is like a weird miracle of
it's like the greatest
evolution.
Miracle that ever happened. I always say my dog like saved me in so many ways. The healing power of dogs is not a myth. It is absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay, so he meets with Masha. Masha is a softcore pornographer, and she basically, so they kind of talk about Videodrome, and Masha tells him to be careful of Videodrome.
She's like his in. Like, if anyone's going to get to it, it's the crazy older Russian lady who knows some people about underground porn for her.
Yeah, she knows things. Yeah,
exactly.
And she has this cool quote. She said it was like, it's dangerous because it has a philosophy, and that's what makes it dangerous.
Yeah, that stood out to me. I was just like, okay, so is it alive? Is it alive? It's just this a weird cult that has changed over time around this entity that no one really knows anything about, but we can't help ourselves.
Yeah, it's just this thing that has an idea, and it just perpetuates the idea on people through the media. Right?
Is it just pure evil, and that's where evil comes from?
Yeah, evil is Videodrome. Yeah, and so I think like the next thing that happens was like he meets again with Nicki, and Nicki's like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna go audition for Videodrome."
I was born to be in Videodrome. Like, girl,
you are out of your mind.
Like, okay, you go with your dreams. Like, my dream is to have a house one day, but you do you. Like,
yeah, her dream is to get tortured and killed.
I mean, there was that guy in Germany, I think it was in like the late 90s or 2000s, who put an ad out that he wanted to eat someone, and someone responded. Someone wanted to be eaten. So people have their weird thing. People have their end goal, and whatever it is, you do you.
Yeah, exactly.
People are complex.
Yeah. It's and Nicki's definitely one of those people. And then so then she because then Max had found out that Videodrome is actually based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in America. So it's not. At first they thought it was like in Malaysia or something.
Yeah, a foreign country or something like that.
But it's like, no, it's actually, that was just a dupe. It was actually made in Pennsylvania. She's like, yeah, I'm going. And he tries to stop her, but that's basically the last we see of her, like, for
alive.
Real. Yeah, alive. Exactly. Like in this media world where people are perpetuated, it seems ad infinitum to serve Videodrome. You know, who knows what's real or not, right? So
exactly.
Yeah. So then she's gone, and so then he meets with he basically tries to track down Brian Oblivion, and he finds out that he's traces him to some place where it's like a homeless shelter, and the homeless shelter is just full of people watching television.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure what to make of that, because generally at missions the goal is or was to feed them and clothe them or give them a place to sleep or find them work, yada, yada, yada. But they're just in front of the boob tube. I guess that kind of shows what the priorities are, is that they would rather consume something like television rather than consume food. Like the television will sustain them or something.
Yeah.
That's possibly what it is, but I think she had an explanation for it.
Yeah, she did. I forget what it was, but you're right. She talked about like why they were having them like do these long like binges, like television binges.
I think it was something along the lines to give them just a little peace and solace or something like that, to make them forget their their current situation, which isn't great. I think that's probably what she said it was about, but I was just kind of distracted by all the homeless people like on the TVs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell?
And a lot of weird stuff had already happened by that point too. So
yeah, exactly. And it was like starting to get really weird. So he finds out that this thing is being run by Brian Oblivion's daughter, Bianca. And Bianca kind of talks a little bit about her dad, and I'm not sure if it was then or later, but he for sure, like, she gives him this tape of Brian, and then Max watches it and he starts to hallucinate.
Yeah. Are they for sure hallucinations though? Because that's the thing about this movie, is that does his perception of everything that's happening start when we start watching the film, or is it already going on? Like, is the twist already happening, I guess?
I suspect that he starts to have these visions after he sees Videodrome.
The first time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once he's seen Videodrome, then his life slow. Like first it's slow, and then it's like the scene where he watches. Because then he, like, in that scene when he watches the Brian Oblivion tape, he sees him get like killed, right?
Yeah,
like,
he's getting like choked or something.
Yeah, some guy like garrotes him behind the throat.
Yeah, she takes off the mask and she's like, "It's Nicki," kind of a thing. And
yeah, it was Nicki, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he sees Nicki killing Brian Oblivion, and then I think he kind of wakes up. He's like, what?
Yeah.
So that's when it starts.
Okay.
The weirdness starts. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So then after that, I think he meets with her again, and she's like, "Oh yeah, he's been dead for a long time."
Yeah, he died on an operating table, but it was intentional.
Mm-hmm. And then they talk about so Videodrome creates this tumor in your brain, I think.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that. Maybe you can expand on it a little bit more. But so Brian Oblivion gets this tumor, but it's later on he says it's going to be an extension of the human brain, essentially. But he needed it gone because it was killing him.
Yeah.
But then Max seems to defeat the tumor and can live with it or something like that. So I wasn't entirely sure where they were going with that, or if I accidentally missed something.
Yeah, it is a bit confusing. I think it's just a way of explaining the hallucinations and showing that this Videodrome, this tape, it has a physical effect on people. It causes them to actually change, and the end result is you start seeing these hallucinations, and it kind of drives you crazy, and it sort of weaponizes you.
Yeah.
You then become a conduit of Videodrome. So I think it's Bianca tells them that the side effects of viewing Videodrome, which is that it carries a broadcast signal that causes the viewer to develop a brain tumor. So Oblivion helped to create it as part of a vision for the future, but when he found out it was being used for malevolent purposes, he attempted to stop it, but then they killed him. Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, so he helped create it, but then it kind of got out of his control.
Yeah, which tends to be a theme with films like this. You have your elder character who's gonna explain everything, and then something terrible generally happens to that character, or something already has happened to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's almost like there's a battle for the soul of this thing that can be used either for good or for evil, and people are trying to use it for evil, and the original creators are trying to bring it back, get it back for good.
Yeah, and what exactly was Brian Oblivion's original intention for it? Exactly. How would he have used this for good when it's being very well equipped to be bad?
I suspect he wanted people to kind of merge with media.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that, because that's, in the end, that's kind of what happens to him.
Yeah,
he lives through all these tapes of himself, and his rebroadcasting the tapes on other shows. And
I guess by that logic, you would live forever. I mean, we kind of do that with old movies. Those people are watched over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's legacy. That's immortality.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that sort of was the idea. But then other things happened.
But then some stuff got in the way. Yeah. And he was just a liability at that point.
Yeah. So then Max, he gets into contact with the people who are creating Videodrome, which is based out of this it's called Spectacular Ocular Corporation. It's like eyeglasses. They made the eyeglass thing is like a front, but they're doing this stuff with weapons or something. And he meets this guy Barry Convex.
I was like, that's an interesting name for a bad guy, Convex.
So he's been and so he tells him, oh yeah, put on this thing and we'll record your dreams or whatever.
Which I loved that thing they put on his head. I was like, that is so sci-fi. That was so it's just I was like, just put it on his head already. I want to see it.
Yeah. Imagine if that's what the Oculus looked like.
Oh God.
Yeah, so it was basically some 3D VR kind of stuff.
Yeah. I really liked the way how it looked too when when you see it from his point of view. I was like, I don't know if you ever played the video game. I'm not a big video game person, but when I was little, there was a game called Duke Nukem, and it had a very, very similar style, and it kind of brought me back for a minute. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. it definitely something. It kind of also reminded me of that like Super Mario Brothers or whatever movie. I don't know if you ever.
Sorry.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh, it is beyond bad.
Oh, then I'm definitely gonna watch it.
I watched it as a kid, and I was like, I don't know, I didn't really think much of it at the time. Rutger Hauer gives an amazing performance in the movie. Like Rutger Hauer, it's like they took him out of Blade Runner and they put him in this movie.
In a kids movie? Is this supposed to be a kids movie? Oh well, kids movies are.
Yeah.
Kids movies from the 80s were not.
I think Mario was. Oh, I forget who the Mario was. But Luigi was like John Turturro, or no, it was John Leguizamo. Yeah.
I love John Leguizamo.
It's like it is a ridiculous movie. It's ridiculous.
Well, you have me at Rutger Hauer, so.
Yeah, the practical effects are actually really good, which is crazy about it.
Practical effects.
They're actually really good, but like the whole world is like they went the totally wrong direction. Like they needed to make Sonic, and they made I don't even know what. It's like Blade Runner meets Alien, but a kids movie.
Oh God, that sounds terrible. That sounds traumatic.
Yeah.
Right.
It was just weird. It was just like, what? This is not the little cute guy jumping on toads that I remember.
Isn't it fun when you go back and watch movies from your childhood and you're kind of like, you call your mom or your dad and you're like, so I got some questions.
Yeah, that's like a whole, what was that, Watership Down? I think that was one.
My mom accidentally walked in on my dad watching the remake and she called me. She's like, have you heard of this? Because my mom loves bunnies. My mom's had 2 rabbits. And she called me and she was like, have you heard of this thing called Watership Down? Like, don't go near it. Don't go near it. You, of all people, cannot watch this movie.
I remember there was like Secret of the Nim. That was another one that was a little... I'll never forget that scene with the owls in that movie. It's like, whoa.
I've never seen that one. I've heard of it. But I rewatched the Neverending Story, and the scene with the horse broke me.
That is like, that's the real stuff right there. It's like, this is how the world is. When you're depressed, it's like you're sinking into a swamp.
It's like the bog of sadness?
Yeah, the swamp. I think it's, like the swamp of sadness, something like that. Yeah, and it just like kills the horse. And he can't get him out.
No, and you're helpless, and you're a kid, and what else can you do? And
that movie was for real. Like that did not pull punches.
Yeah. And we're gonna kill your pet while you're at it, kid.
Yeah. Life sucks, and then your horse dies. It's like, ooh, this is hardcore.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I know a lot of people got scared by E.T. too, to be honest.
Why was everyone afraid of E.T.? I love E.T.
I think there were just a couple scenes where before so this I think Spielberg is like secretly one of the greatest horror directors ever. Like maybe second or third. Like the only person better might be Hitchcock. But he's so good at doing suspense. Like he just does it without thinking about it. Like that's just how he like does a film. Like I was watching someone watch Close Encounters for the first time.
Okay.
And they were genuinely scared. Like half the movie, they were genuinely scared. Like,
maybe
there's a scene where like the aliens come to the house and like the kid's like, oh yay, but then the mom's freaking out, and the kid just gets taken, and it's like that's kind of like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know that the aliens are good and they're cute and they're like, oh hi, we like you.
That's true.
You would think this is bad.
Yeah. My boyfriend Ryan hates E.T. Hates it. He could go on forever about how much he hates E.T. And my older brother Josh is the same way. And I'm just like, but they let you know he's harmless from the very beginning. He gets left behind. Like, he doesn't want to stay. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he wants to leave.
He's like, hey, you forgot me, which I guess I resonate with because I was forgotten twice on 2 separate occasions as a child. So.
Are you like the youngest?
No, I'm number 5.
Are you 5 out of 5 or are you
7?
Whoa. Well, maybe that's why. Like, there's so many.
Yeah.
It was like Home Alone.
Somebody was gonna get left behind, but I still milk that. I still milk it. I'm like, you left me behind at church and at Walmart, 2 places I did not want to be.
Holy shit, you get left at Walmart? Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. Okay.
Oh, well.
Yeah. All right. So he's like, so Max is like doing the VR thing, and then he starts having this really fucking weird dream of, or whatever, I don't know, maybe it was real, about being in Videodrome. So there's like that weird wall that looks
clay
like
wall.
Yeah, clay wall, and there's that like black, I don't even know what it's like, something like a ramp or something. And so then there's the television, and then the television is like, it's Nicki again.
Yeah, and it's also like Masha too.
Yeah, so what's interesting is like, so he starts, so she's like, yeah, whip me, and he's like, at first he's not, then he really gets into it. And then when he's into it, you see on the television it's Masha and not Nicki. And then he wakes up the next day and she's dead next to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, whoa, I did not want to have sex with you, or something like that.
No, he's pretty freaked out by it.
Yeah. And so then he calls, was it Harlan, I think?
Yeah, he calls Harlan.
And he's like, dude, like, look what happened or whatever. And then Harlan's like, there's nothing in there. And then he looks and there's nothing there. So that's like, but Masha's definitely dead, right?
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, I don't know if she's actually dead, if they got to her too, if they have to just clear out all the loose ends. So it makes sense if she got somehow pulled in as well, because she's the one who connected the dots for him, basically.
No, I really feel like she got killed because, like you said, it's cutting loose ends. She knew about Videodrome.
That's true.
And so it's like these people, like, they're either used or they die. And if Videodrome couldn't use her, they were going to use Max as basically their assassin to kill her.
Yeah.
I think one thing, I'm not sure if I think it did happen before, but like Max has another dream where Nicki is the television, and the television starts like
he
pulsating.
Gets crawls inside, and it has like veins, and
it's alive.
Yeah, and it again goes back to that whole merging of yourself, like flesh with media and stuff like that. And
and he basically he like the really famous image, like he sticks his head into it, and it's like her lips, and it's and so he's really starting to like have these weird dreams that we don't know how much of it's real or not. And I think also in that scene, he finally has that section of himself is cut open in his stomach. Yeah,
like it's. I mean, it looks like a stomach vagina, basically, but it's a weird opening.
Yeah, it's just
lower half. That you can store a lot of stuff in. I didn't understand. Like maybe he was. I don't know if he was necessarily I don't think he was in pain, or maybe he was, and they were not portraying pain in the same way that we're used to seeing, because it felt very dreamlike to me, on purpose, obviously. Because when I feel pain in my dreams, it's not the same as if I'm feeling pain in real life, because it's not actually happening.
Yeah.
There's almost a numbness to pain in dreams and stuff like that. So that's kind of the same impression I was getting when he's like sticking the gun into his gut or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of like, well, this is kind of weird. How it's like, how far down can I stick my arm into this creepy, gross pipe to get something that I dropped, kind of a thing. That's almost like, well, how deep can I put this gun into myself, basically?
Yeah, it worked very dream logic wise, because like if you wake up, if you're in a dream and you like, I don't know, had a third arm or something, or you, I don't know, there was some kind of weird dysmorphia with your body. Your inclination in the dream might be to explore what you feel like in this dreamlike state.
Yeah, why is this here? Maybe I should see what's going on in there. It seemed natural but unnatural at the same time for him to do what he was doing.
Yeah, it was interesting, and he's starting to like really, these dream stuff is starting to merge with when he's waking, and you can't tell if it's real or not. People are winding up dead, but are they dead?
Yeah.
You don't know.
I just don't know. All I know is that it was very weird. I enjoyed most of it.
Yeah.
but yeah, I have very few answers and more questions. I feel like, which is what I feel like movies like Videodrome are supposed to do. They're supposed to want you to ask questions more.
Leave you with a lot of questions. Yeah, totally. And so then later on, Max meets again with Convex, and then I think this is the scene where they basically program him to like start killing people.
Yeah.
And so he like takes a VCR tape that then starts pulsating too.
Yeah.
It almost like it's like rubber, like expanding, like it's made flesh or something.
Yeah.
And they stick it into his like section in his stomach, like he's a VCR player.
Exactly. Like
you're and then he says, "Okay, go assassinate the other people that run your company."
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he is the machine now to do their bidding, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And he is the television. Yeah.
This is the little USB that I'm going to stick into you with all of the programming that you need to do, and come back when it's done, basically. Yeah. It's like when you program commands into a computer or an AI or whatever. Yeah. He's just that. Now he's just flesh and blood doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's sent off to do their bidding. So the first thing he needs to do is go and kill all the people at his company, all the other presidents. And at this point, like his hand like merges with the gun.
Yeah, that was I think so what happened. Looking, but cool.
Yeah, it's like really strange.
Yeah, like the scene when it's like the metal tubes or whatever going into his hand. That was very good.
Yeah, I was like, what? It's like very, I don't know, like it's like something out of the Matrix or something, like cyberpunk kind of weirdness.
It was very, very creepy, very off-putting, very creepy, but I also can't look away either.
Yeah. And again, really cool practical effects.
Oh, yeah.
I forget the guy who did the effects. I think it was Rick Baker. Really, really top-notch. I think he's retired now, but he was a great like special effects artist.
I have so much respect for those guys. I have so much respect. I keep feeling like I still think practical effects look better. Like, not that, all of the new CGI and stuff like that isn't cool looking and doesn't give us really great imagery, but like practical effects still to me just age better in a lot of ways. If they're done right, if they're done well, they age better. Yeah,
totally. I totally agree. So Max is sent off to kill them. He does it. Then they also want him to kill Bianca. So then he goes to kill Bianca, and Bianca kind of does this like Jedi mind trick on him.
Yeah, she kind of reverse programs him, or reverse engineers him.
He takes reverse programs him, and she says, the craziest quote in this movie: "Death to Videodrome, long live the new flesh."
Long live the new flesh.
What the fuck?
It's like, so is she? I mean, it kind of sucks because she saves him from evil Videodrome. But is she just as bad because she doesn't really save his humanity? She just reprograms him to go, okay, now they tried killing me, now you go kill them. He's not even Max at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at this point he's just a machine that
a drone, perhaps.
Yeah, a drone. Yeah,
I had to.
Exactly. And he's just like he's just programmed from one. I guess that's really the thing in this film, the theme of it, in a way, is like there's this battle for how to use this media power, right? Like Videodrome has the power to control people, but what is it going to be used to do?
Exactly.
Like so the Convex guy, he wants to use Videodrome to weed out the bad people in society, so have it self-destruct upon them and destroy them, which is why he wanted Max to kill everyone at Civic TV, because they see them as degenerate, evil, terrible people. And so the O'Briens or whatever, they want to use it to merge people with technology. But it could be used for either one. It's not good or evil. It just is.
Yeah, that's the thing. The things that we invent, the technologies that we find so awesome, like, can be used for good or bad. Like, the technology itself does not choose to be used in that way, in X or Y or whatever. It's what we do with it. We're the ones who control it. Like,
yeah.
We're the ones who program it to tell us the weather and not to tell us to go fuck ourselves or something. You know, like
Exactly.
that's not useful. But yeah, I kind of just felt bad for him towards the end, you know, because it's just one man's humanity stripped away, and whether he was a good person or a bad person, he's still that. He's just like you described it before. He's just the conduit at this point, and now he's just doing their bidding or her bidding. He really has no choice in the matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like really lost his free will at that point. And he's just kind of like, whatever you tell me to do, master, and he just does it. So then the Jedi mind trick works, and he is sent off to assassinate Barry now. So Barry's at this weird trade show or something.
Yeah, I didn't know eyeglasses trade shows were so, you know, fancy. So like, I'd like to go to one of those. Seems fun. Yeah,
maybe it's a front sort of for something. Like they're actually like, oh yes, our new Videodrome technology will get rid of all the terrible people. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he blasts him at this trade show thing.
Yep.
Kills him, shoots him, and then says, you know, long to death to Videodrome, long live the new flesh. And yeah. And didn't again he had like the infused gun?
Yeah, because like, I think he's hiding it. Because at this point, there's no like walking around in public with just like your hand fused to a gun, basically. So I think at this point, that's why he's like always like hunched over.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, totally. So then Max goes off and he finds some like abandoned ship or something, or
it's like a abandoned cargo ship or something like that. And I think it's funny, none of his vices that were at the beginning of the movie are with him at the end of the movie. There's no cigarettes, there's no booze, there's no comfortable bed. He's literally left with nothing. None of his original human comforts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's left with nothing. He's just completely succumbed to being a conduit for this thing. Yeah. And then then they give him one last directive. So he sees the television again. And he sees Nicki, and basically she just tells him to kill himself, right?
Yeah.
And the last thing we see him kind of put the gun to his head, and we hear a bang off screen. And that's it.
That's it. After the TV explodes with like guts and
that TV explosion was insane, yeah.
Just meat. Like I'm not even sure what it was. It's just a bunch of meat.
Yeah. Just like, what the hell?
Tubes and styrofoam spray painted red. I don't know what it was.
Right. It's kind of interesting too. So like, we see a television explode, and then he dies. I mean, it's almost like they're connecting the two. Like the television is him. Yeah.
Well, when Bianca deprograms him, he shoots the TV and it bleeds. Like it's a chest and it bleeds, and he is shooting the TV. Ended up shooting him, and that's what kind of snapped him out of it initially. Why did it kill him the second time? Or if it didn't kill him the first time, it just deprogrammed him the first time. See?
Yeah, there's some kind of analogy there where like that the television apparatus is supposed to be analogous to him, but in a certain way. Like I guess if when he shot it kicked him out of it so that he could then be programmed again. Something like that.
No, I thought it was a very, again, interesting film and way ahead of its time. I think it saw a lot more than it realized it was seeing, like just by its creation. Because now there's some people out there who can't live without social media, who can't live without checking their phone every 5 minutes. I got into this super bad habit where the first thing I would do when I woke up was go on Twitter. Like literally, I would reach over, grab my phone, and just sit and scroll. And I was like, this is not healthy.
Yeah.
This is not healthy.
I think I have a name for that now. I forget what it's called, but
there's like fear of missing out or something.
Yeah, FOMO. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I had it bad for a while. It's like 2 weeks. Bad 2 weeks. But again, with quarantine and not being able to do a lot of things, like that's totally. All we have right now. That's all.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It's just it sort of exacerbates it.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely. I don't know if I'd watch it again anytime soon. I need to like come down from it. There's certain things you need to come down from a little bit. But I think I'd probably rate it like a 7.
Yeah.
If it were going out of 10, I would do 7.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I felt like it was a 7. I felt like it was definitely ahead of its time. It did a lot of very interesting things. It talks about a lot of like things that are kind of happening in social media age. Like, I don't think, like you would never really want to remake this film, but you could make something sort of in a similar vein. Like, I was recently watching, there's this film, The Neon Demon, by Nicholas Winding Refn, and it's not exactly the same, but like that film was like trying to like talk about like the horrors of like the Hollywood life.
Oh
like,
yeah, I haven't seen it, but I saw trailers for it, and I would definitely want it. It looks like one of those weird movies I would really like.
It's very the way I would say it's similar is that like that film and a lot of his films recently. So like I would say, so I just watched, he did this TV show Too Old to Die Young, which was pretty good. Only God Forgives, that film, The Neon Demon, and Drive. I kind of put all those together. Like Drive is the one that has the most narrative, but like especially those like Neon Demon, Only God Forgives, and Too Old to Die Young. Like they're not really narrative films. It's more like you get a feeling from them, and they're very strong on the aesthetic. Like he has a strong aesthetic, like look that he's creating in every single, like every scene that he can. You're like, okay, this guy wants to paint with light.
Yeah, he has a vision.
Yeah, he has a very particular aesthetic vision of how to build a scene. And it's very beautiful. It's very beautiful. But the narrative isn't really there. And like what I would say is similar with the Neon Demon is like it's this character who goes into this new world, and the world slowly kind of eats at them and changes them. And it's sort of, in the end, there's a self-destructive quality to what's happening from the new world that they're thrown into. And it's like not a lot is like overtly explained to you, like in Videodrome. It's just like characters have these visions, you're not sure if they're real or not. Weird things kind of happen, you're not sure why. People react to the main character in ways that you're kind of perplexed about. So yeah, in that sense, it's similar. Yeah, so yeah, that was an interesting film. But yeah, on Videodrome, yeah, I'd say it's like a 7. I think that I feel like thematically it's a little muddled to me. I wasn't sure like exactly the point he was trying to make, because like, I mean, it's really deep too. Because if you think about like the fact that there was a person who literally drove to YouTube, like the actual location, and tried to like did a shooting.
Yeah. And
you're like, okay, that, not to say that it's, I'm not blaming the movie or media or anything like that. It's just like, what is the filmmaker trying to say when that person's the protagonist and they're sort of like made to be a non-functioning entity? Like, I'm not sure exactly what he was trying to say. Is he saying like media has the ability to have these effects on people that's negative?
I think it does to an extent, because when I watch the news, I get freaking depressed. I get so depressed. I mean, I want to stay informed, but at the expense of being miserable. Like I want to admire certain people that I encounter on YouTube or in real life, or celebrities, which is so ridiculous to admire celebrities. But then you just end up getting let down again and again. Like, I have a very good friend who loves House of Cards. Loves House of Cards. He was devastated by what came out about Kevin Spacey. Even though what was being said about Kevin Spacey had been said for a very long time. It's just now it's really out there, basically. And for the longest time, he was just, it's utterly devastating to find out that your idols and stuff like that aren't who that you want them to be. Oh shit, I forgot where I was going with this. That happens because I don't make notes. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Yeah, I think it was sort of like having to do with like the media, like what
influence and stuff like that. Thank you. I'm sorry.
because it presents a kind of dark idea about the media and like what the media can do. I guess my biggest takeaway is that I guess I would say is like there's like a battle for what media can do. Like will it be used for good or will it be used for evil? It just is. But we are the ones who decide what is going to happen with the media that we consume. Like social media can be used for a lot of good, and it has.
Oh yeah, it definitely has. But then see it be used in a toxic way. We see toxic people being put to the top. We see smaller, lesser creators not getting the recognition that they deserve because public opinion is swayed by other people sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we have 3 or 4 different news channels for different political parties. Because you can't have it all in one for some reason.
Exactly. Yeah. You just you get tunneled into like your little.
Exactly. And it's sad, but I think it's true that media, I don't want to say controls us or anything like that, but it does influence us in a lot of ways. You know, from how to raise your kids in some ways to what the best dog food is to buy. And someone will always tell you you're wrong. Always. And I think Videodrome was just a way of, I don't know, getting that message out earlier than I think it meant to, maybe. Because we're just the ones, you know, observing it and dissecting it in the way that we think the message was supposed to come across as well. So I think the only person who really knows is David Cronenberg. Maybe exactly. He doesn't even know. Maybe he's just throwing shit at a wall and hoping that it's stuck. I don't know. But
I read, so he kind of wrote the film because he was kind of into like pirating TV stations, and he was afraid he was going to see something
that you shouldn't see. Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly what he said. Something you shouldn't see. So he came up with this idea. So yeah, I think we're both in agreement. Like it's pretty good. Got some really great like practical effects. Some really disturbing images. But there's some things that just don't totally work. It leaves you with more questions than answers.
Yeah, maybe some of that has to do with editing. Maybe it has to do with maybe they weren't even sure. But at the end of the day, I think its overall message will come through to people who are looking for it. And I think it had something important to say at the end of the day. Tons of things that have something important to say sometimes are bogged down by ridiculousness or silliness. Hence, like, practically everything that has to do with Star Trek before 1989. There's just so much silliness that sometimes you can't see the message, which is unfortunate. And some of it's just ridiculous on purpose. But yeah. There definitely was a message, and I appreciated the message, as uncomfortable as it made me feel sometimes.